Did you think you were doing the right thing only to find it quietly led to years of regret? It's easy to believe that aging naturally brings more problems, more regrets, and more sadness. But the truth is, many of the things that cause misery later in life aren't just the result of getting older. They're the result of avoidable mistakes, habits, or mindsets that quietly wear away at your peace and happiness. Most folks don't even realize they're doing them. They think that's just the way life is now. But I want to tell you something important. It doesn't have to be this way. You're not stuck. You're not broken. And you certainly don't have to live out your remaining years in quiet frustration or emotional exhaustion. In this video, we're going to go through 5 of the most common yet overlooked mistakes that older adults make. Mistakes that can slowly but surely drag you into a life that feels smaller, lonelier, and harder than it needs to be. These aren't mistakes of the body. They're mistakes of the heart, the mind, and the spirit. And the good news, you can stop making them starting today. This video was made with care for seniors between the ages of 55 and 80 who want to feel stronger, freer, and more in control of their emotional well-being. If that's you, then you're exactly where you need to be. Stick with me until the very end because the last mistake is something almost no one talks about, and yet it may be the very thing that's been robbing you of joy without you even knowing it. Number 1, holding on to bitterness. One of the most common mistakes older adults make, often without realizing it, is holding on to bitterness from the past. Whether it's an old betrayal, a family dispute, or simply regret over how life turned out, many seniors carry emotional wounds that have never fully healed. But here's the hard truth. Bitterness is like drinking poison and hoping someone else gets sick. It doesn't fix the past. It only hardens the present. Bitterness has a quiet way of sneaking into your day-to-day life. You might find yourself replaying the same argument in your mind over and over, or you feel a tightness in your chest when you think about a certain person's name. Sometimes it shows up as resentment toward your children or siblings because they live their lives differently from how you hoped. Over time, that bitterness doesn't just isolate you from others. It eats away at your own peace. Here's what makes this especially painful. After 60, you have more time to think, but not always more people to talk to. That silence can become an echo chamber of regret and unresolved anger. When your world grows smaller, as it often does with age, it's easy to become trapped in your own thoughts. And if those thoughts are bitter, then your daily reality becomes bitter, too. No matter how kind or supportive the people around you may be, bitterness also changes how people treat you. Whether you realize it or not, others can sense when someone is carrying old grudges. They might not know the story behind it, but they feel the tension, the guardedness, the emotional distance that can push people away, which only deepens the loneliness and the bitterness grows stronger. It becomes a cycle, and the longer it goes unbroken, the harder it is to escape. I once spoke with a gentleman named Frank, who was 78 and hadn't spoken to his brother in 30 years. The falling out had started over something small, something both of them probably forgot the full details of. But every year that passed without making peace just added another layer of resentment. Frank told me, at this point, I wouldn't even know what to say to him. That one decision left unhealed cast a shadow over his later years. And it didn't have to. Letting go of bitterness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means choosing peace over pain. It means saying, what happened hurt, but I won't let it define me anymore. When you begin to release those old wounds, something shifts. Your shoulders feel lighter. Your laughter comes easier. And relationships that once seemed impossible to repair sometimes begin to heal on their own. The past can't be changed, but your relationship to it can. And by choosing to let go of bitterness, you open the door to something many people give up on far too soon. Joy. Number 2, ignoring physical decline. The second mistake that leads many elderly folks straight into misery is ignoring the early signs of physical decline. Now, I know this one can be hard to face. Nobody likes to admit they're slowing down, losing balance or needing help with things they used to do on their own. But turning a blind eye doesn't stop the decline. It just makes the fall harder when it comes. After 60, our bodies begin sending little warnings. You might notice your knees complain when you stand. Your back tightens after gardening or you feel winded. Climbing stairs you used to sprint up. Many people brush these signs off, telling themselves, "I'm just tired today," or "It's nothing serious." But those early aches and pains are your body's way of whispering. Please pay attention. If you don't listen, that whisper can turn into a shout or a crisis. Why do so many ignore these signs? Pride is one reason. Many seniors have spent decades being the strong one, raising families, building careers, helping others. Admitting that your body's not what it used to be can feel like weakness. But here's the truth. Strength isn't pretending you're fine. Strength is knowing when to ask for help, when to rest, and when to adapt so you can keep living well. Another reason is fear. The idea of using a cane, wearing a brace, or going to physical therapy can be scary because it feels like a loss of independence. But avoiding those tools doesn't keep you independent. It often sets you up for injury, isolation, and even hospitalization. I've seen people ignore their mobility issues for years, only to suffer a fall that takes away their freedom completely. Take Gerald, a 74-year-old man I knew who refused to see a doctor about his balance problems. "I don't need a walker," he said. "That's for old folks." One day he slipped in the shower, broke his hip, and spent months recovering, losing muscle, confidence in his usual spark. If he'd addressed the issue sooner, he could have avoided that long, painful setback and stayed active on his own terms. Accepting physical change isn't giving up. It's growing wiser. It's understanding that your body needs care, not denial. When you acknowledge what's happening and take small steps, whether it's daily stretching, strength exercises, or regular checkups, you're not giving in to aging, you're taking charge of it. Misery doesn't just come from pain. It comes from the frustration of pretending you're fine. When your body knows otherwise, but when you respect what your body is telling you, you reclaim power. You create space for comfort, confidence, and control. And that leads to a much brighter, freer life. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, isolating themselves from others. One of the most damaging yet often overlooked mistakes many elderly people make is withdrawing from social connections. At first, it might seem like a natural part of aging. Friends move away. Loved ones pass. Health issues make it harder to get out. So, little by little, you start staying home. More declining invitations and telling yourself you're fine being alone. But this slow isolation doesn't protect your peace. Chips away at your spirit. The truth is, we're not meant to go through life in solitude. Human beings are social creatures. We thrive when we feel seen, heard, and valued. And yet, many older adults unintentionally cut themselves off from the very relationships that could lift them up. They tell themselves it's easier this way, that they don't want to be a burden, or that nobody would understand what they're going through. But that thinking only leads to loneliness. And loneliness, my friend, is misery in disguise. You see, when you don't interact with others, your world gets smaller. Your thoughts loop in the same patterns. Your moods get heavier. Even your memory can fade faster without regular conversation and mental stimulation. Studies have shown that loneliness can be just as harmful as smoking or obesity in older adults. But you don't need research to feel what it's like to spend day after day with no one to talk to, no one to laugh with, no one to share a simple cup of coffee. Now, I understand that reconnecting isn't easy. You may feel like the people you used to count on are no longer around. But connection doesn't have to be big or dramatic. It can be as simple as waving to your neighbor, calling an old friend, joining a small group at the library, the senior center, or even a church. Relationships don't always have to come from the past. They can be created anew right where you are. Take Edna, for example. At 82, she lost her husband and 2 closest friends in the same year. She spent months in silence, only speaking when she had to. Then one day, her daughter invited her to a quilting circle. She resisted at first, said she didn't know anyone, that she'd feel awkward, but she went, and slowly, stitch by stitch, she found herself smiling again, sharing stories and looking forward to those gatherings. That small group became her lifeline. The biggest lie loneliness tells you is that you're alone. But you're not. People care. People are waiting for someone just like you to show up and say hi. Don't rob yourself of the joy that comes from human connection. Even one meaningful conversation a week can be enough to lift your spirits and remind you that life still holds laughter, understanding, and warmth. Misery doesn't always come from tragedy. Sometimes it comes from silence. But when you choose to reach out, you begin to rewrite your story. You shift from surviving to living, and that makes all the difference. Number 4, ignoring physical pain or discomfort. One of the most avoidable yet surprisingly common mistakes older adults make is brushing off physical pain or discomfort as just part of aging. You might feel a nagging ache in your knee, a strange tightness in your chest, or even something as simple as difficulty bending or walking, and tell yourself that's normal for someone my age. But here's the truth. Normal does not mean harmless. Ignoring pain isn't strength. It's a shortcut to misery. Pain is your body's way of saying something isn't right. Yet, too often, elderly people decide to tough it out instead of seeking help. They downplay symptoms, skip appointments, or assume nothing can be done. And while some discomfort might be expected with age, dismissing it altogether can allow treatable problems to spiral into serious ones, both physically and emotionally. The impact goes beyond the body. Unaddressed pain wears down your mood. It steals your energy. It makes simple joys like gardening, walking, or playing with grandkids feel like a burden. Before long, you find yourself avoiding activities, sitting more, sleeping poorly, and feeling discouraged. That creates a cycle of decline. One that starts with a twinge in your back, but ends with a life that feels smaller and more painful than it needs to be. And let's be honest, some of us grew up in a time when we were taught not to complain, not to make a fuss. But aging isn't about being quiet in your suffering. It's about being wise enough to speak up when your body needs care. There is no prize for enduring avoidable pain, but there is great reward in addressing it early and reclaiming your comfort, your independence, and your dignity. Let me tell you about Roy, a 78-year-old who used to love fishing. A few years ago, he started feeling stiffness in his hands and told himself it was just arthritis and not worth seeing a doctor. He stopped fishing, thinking he couldn't hold the rod anymore. One day, his daughter insisted he see a specialist. Turns out it wasn't arthritis. It was a pinched nerve that was treatable. Within weeks of therapy, he was back by the lake with a rod in hand and a smile on his face. That's the kind of change that can happen when you listen to your body and respond with care instead of silence. Pain is not a sign of weakness. It's a message, and every message deserves to be heard, especially when it can mean the difference between suffering and thriving. So don't let pride, fear, or outdated beliefs stop you from getting help. You deserve to feel good. You deserve comfort. And most importantly, you deserve a life where your days are defined by what you enjoy, not by what you endure. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, refusing to ask for help. There's a quiet kind of suffering that happens when older adults refuse to ask for help. Not because they don't need it, but because they're too proud or too afraid. This mistake is easy to overlook. Yet, it's one of the biggest reasons many seniors end up feeling isolated, overwhelmed, or defeated. The idea of being a burden weighs heavily, especially for people who spent decades being the strong one, the provider, the caretaker. But aging doesn't make you weak. It simply means your needs change, and there's no shame in that. Too often, older folks think asking for help is a sign of failure. Whether it's help with groceries, managing medications, navigating technology, or even emotional support, many will quietly struggle, hoping the problem will fix itself. And what happens next? Tasks pile up, frustration builds, days grow lonelier, and slowly confidence erodes. It's not the help you asked for that causes misery. It's the help you didn't ask for. There's a reason support systems exist. Family, friends, neighbors, church groups, community centers, they're not there to pity you. They're there because people genuinely care and want to be part of your life. When you let others help, you don't lose dignity. You gain connection. You give someone the chance to show love and you give yourself permission to breathe. Consider this. Barbara, a 74-year-old widow, spent months trying to fix a leaking kitchen pipe by herself. She didn't want to bother her son who lived nearby. Eventually, the leak became a flood, damaging the floor and costing her thousands of dollars. When her son found out, he wasn't annoyed. He was heartbroken. All she had to do was call, and it could have been solved in an afternoon. This fear of being seen as needy often stems from a lifetime of independence. But needing help doesn't erase your past strength. It's simply a new phase of wisdom, knowing when to share the load. And the beautiful thing is, when you open up, others often open up too. You create a bond built on trust, not pity. So if you've been trying to manage everything alone, ask yourself, is it really helping or is it holding you back? There's courage and independence, yes, but there's also strength in community. Don't let unnecessary struggle steal your joy. Asking for help isn't giving up. It's choosing to live better. And that's one choice you'll never regret. Final thoughts. Life after 60 isn't a slow descent into misery. It's an opportunity to rise above the mistakes that keep so many people stuck. The truth is, no one teaches us how to age well. There's no textbook for this season of life. We stumble, we guess, and sometimes we fall into habits that quietly drain our energy, our joy, and our purpose. But just because you've made a few missteps doesn't mean you have to stay in that place. If you've recognized even one of these mistakes in your own life, whether it's holding on to bitterness, neglecting your health, pushing people away, clinging to the past, or refusing help, that awareness is already a sign of growth. And the beautiful thing about this stage of life is that you get to choose how the story unfolds. You can unlearn, rebuild, reconnect, and rediscover parts of yourself that might have been buried under years of duty and expectation. Don't let pride keep you lonely. Don't let fear keep you silent. Don't let routines keep you small. You've lived too much, learned too much, and loved too much to let yourself sink into a life that doesn't feel meaningful anymore. It's never too late to ask yourself, what do I still want from this life? And it's never too late to go after it, even if it's just peace, laughter, or a good cup of coffee with a friend. You're not here by accident. Every breath you take is a reminder that you still have something to give, something to feel, something to enjoy. So be kind to yourself, forgive yourself. Because misery doesn't come from age, it comes from giving up on yourself. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.